All right, hello all. I wanted to quickly do some administrative things, show you some of the stuff that I've put on eCourseware, which should be pretty complete. There's like 1 or 2 assignments that I need to go in and update, but for the most part, most of your work is already on there, with the exception of the weekly lectures, obviously, that I will continue to post. But if you wanted to take a look at your informative speech rubric or whatever else early, that is available to you right now. So let's jump in. Okay, so you've got your content in weekly modules. So all of your last week stuff, obviously, week schedule, all that good stuff was just that 1 week. Now, if you look at week 3, you can click the summer course calendar. And voila, all of the weeks for you. There is one highlighted live piece that I just wanted you guys to see so that you knew that that was going to be the one speech that you needed to do live with me, which brings me to one of your activities for this week. If you go to, obviously I'll be putting this video right here, that's where you accessed it. If you go to Persuasive Speech Live Schedule Sign Up and click that, oh, I don't actually know if it's showing you. Okay, there we go. It's live. So you have the ability to go in and sign up for the block of time that you want to give your live speech with me. There are 3 days throughout that week that I have available. If for some reason those days and time chunks, it's like 2-hour blocks, don't work, just shoot me an email like ASAP and be like, I work identically to all of that or whatever else. And we can try to find a different time that does work for you. Right now, all I need is your name and your tentative thesis statement. So that's something that you should already have written for the topic approval worksheets, which I'm slowly but surely getting through grading and giving feedback on those. And this is something that's going to continue to evolve throughout the course. We obviously haven't done the organization chapter yet, so it's difficult to expect perfect thesis statements if you don't even really understand the purpose of a thesis statement or how to craft one of those. So just give me your best shot. 1 sentence, main idea of what your topic is. This works for multiple reasons. 1, so that people, when they're picking, if they don't have a date preference, can be like, oh, I'm gonna have to, do peer evaluations on these topics. I should pick topics that I'm interested in. Or 2, so we don't have a lot of like overlap of the same topics, so people can see, oh yeah, somebody else is already doing legalizing marijuana. Please don't do legalizing marijuana. I've heard that speech 1,700 times, and there's very little new information on stuff like that. Pick something a little bit more unique. But if you have found a new way to approach topics, I'm obviously all ears. But this is available to you. You can update your thesis statement or update your topic or whatever else, as long as you do it by 7/4, July 4th. All right, let's go back to week 3. I have your chapter 13 quiz. I also have your audience demographics and interest survey, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit after I briefly go over some of the main points in chapter 5. And then I also have your media monologue extra credit assignment sheet. The media monologue extra credit Dropbox is either on your Dropbox page, or if you go to week 4, I have the extra credit assignment sheet there for you too. So it's in both places. And then there's the Dropbox available to you. So if you decide to do that, it just needs to be in by the 27th at 11:30. It's not required, but it is kind of a fun way for you to experience and play with elements and aspects of delivery rather than having to focus on creating your own content and kind of getting tripped up in your argument and how you want to talk about it and what supporting material you're going to use. You obviously just memorize a media monologue, and that could be something like a speech from a TV show, movie, play. People have asked about songs previously, which is totally fine, but just remember that you're speaking, not singing to me. And then you get to play with really cool delivery elements like pitch and rate and vocal distractions and articulation and enunciation and all of this really interesting stuff without having to stress out about like, oh no, how do I do both? How do I explore playing with delivery and also like make sure that the speech is crafted and really well put together, which you'll have to do for your other speeches, but this is a nice way to ease into how we're doing delivery. Yes, so let's go back to week 4. I think my coffee is still kicking in. I'm feeling a little spacey today. I'm sure you guys have those days too. Okay, week 3. I put the cheat sheet here. It's also listed on the media monologue activity, but if you're not going to do that one, the cheat sheet is available to you as well, just so that you have all those definitions for the key terms for chapter 12 as well. I did count how many worksheets there were, extra credit worksheets. There are 14, so I decided officially that I'm going to give you 2 points of extra credit per worksheet. If you do all 14 worksheets and you turn those into the Dropbox, which is in the very last week, because I'm going to obviously have you right there under activities. Obviously give you as much time as possible to turn those in. If you do all 14, you get an extra 2 points of extra credit because I like round numbers. So 30 points potentially total, because 14 times 2 is 28. But if you do all 14, you are extra awesome and you get a bonus. Okay, good. I think that that's everything for this week. If you are wanting to go in and look at your assignment sheets and whatever else for the rubrics, outline requirements, outline templates, etc., for the informative speech, it's in week 5. So you can go to activities during week 5, and I've got the assignment sheet here for you. I've got the informative speech rubric, the outline template, the outline rubric, and then all of your drop boxes for all your speech link, your outline, and if you your visual aid, because you do have a required visual aid for your informative speech. All of that is in week 5. Same thing with the persuasive speech and the ceremonial speech. They're in the other drop boxes, which you can always search topics to type in ceremonial, type in persuasive, and anything that has persuasive on there should pop up. I had a little bit of an issue with eCourseware, which, like, when do I not? I probably wasn't clear because so many of you did it in a way that I didn't intend. The peer evaluations, if you click on the Dropbox, like the main Dropbox, then you should see that I put in, I'm pointing like you can see my screen, group feedback 1, group feedback 2, group 3 feedback, group 4 feedback, group 5 feedback. Many of you, the majority of you, posted your own feedback link instead of putting it in the group, with the exception of group 5. So yay, group 5, you understood what I was saying. Everybody else did not, which is fine, but it also makes it way more difficult for your group to find their feedback. So instead of creating your own post for feedback, I want you to go into the group, which you have to do to see who is in your group anyway, and then reply to that thread, and then it's going to keep it all in one area for you. In theory, in eCourseware, there's a way to make it so that you can't even see other people's posts and feedback and things. I'm going to have to call tech support, try to figure it out, because I've tried 17 different ways to send it, and it does not work. So next time, do that for me. I am working on getting those grades in for you, but hopefully if you can locate your feedback for your introduction speech is helpful for moving forward. There was one other thing I wanted to talk to y'all about. No. It'll come to me. Anyway, let's jump into talking about chapter 5 briefly, and then I will show you the, oh, there it is, the anxiety survey. Not everyone did it. I think I got maybe 13 responses, and I wanted to give people the opportunity to earn their participation points for last week. It is a Google Docs survey, so I didn't shut it off. You do still have the ability to go in and put your answers in there. Like I said, it's not like a points assignment. You don't get like 20 points for filling out the survey. It's a class participation points thing. So you want to make sure that you're earning all of those 100 points and participating in stuff like that, like this, or like the audience demographics and interests survey that you guys are doing this week. Those things are not necessarily hard points, but they are soft points, which are roped into your attendance and participation grade. So make sure you go do that, because I don't want to share the results with everyone. It kind of defeats the purpose of like, look how many people in your class are feeling the exact same way as you do, which is the goal of the assignment, if not everyone participated. So please go in and do that for me as well. I think maybe I didn't communicate that as well, that it was an attendance and participation kind of situation. Same thing for audience demographics and interests, which we're going to talk about in a second. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and locate some notes. All right, so one of the questions that was on your topic approval was, why should the audience care? And in a different, in the alternative additional textbook that I've given the link to y'all in your syllabus that you used for chapter 11, the anxiety chapter, the publicspeakingproject.org, they ask a question, what's in it for me? WIIFM, I think. What's in it for me? That's what the audience is asking when they're sitting there listening to you give your speech. What's in it for me? What can I learn from this? What should I be thinking from this? Why am I interested in this? So it's super important for you to consider where your audience is coming from. Otherwise, why are you even giving the speech? Why are you getting up in front of everyone and sharing your knowledge or your perspective about this topic if the audience is not going to be listening? And you can't always control if someone is listening or not. We've talked about noise in the past, both external noise, like my sliding door is open right now and I can hear the pool cleaners. Sometimes I can hear the train. And we've got internal noise, like what am I going to eat for lunch is always my example. But you can make your best effort as a speaker to analyze your audience and figure out what their attitudes, beliefs, and values about your topic specifically are. If you would like to do your own survey about your topic for the class, usually I would do like a hand raising thing in class. Like, okay, Sam has the first 3 minutes of class to ask you some questions. Everybody close your eyes, raise your hand if da-da-da, raise your hand if da-da-da, raise your hand if da-da-da, and then they can write down and count and write down the numbers. You would have to do it obviously in something like a Google Forms or a Qualtrics at this point, but if that's something that you would like to do to try to assess your audience a little better, I am totally fine with it. You do the work on the back end and I'm happy to help send that out for you. If enough people are interested in doing that, we can even have a discussion board kind of situation with all of the links. This is kind of a unique opportunity to explore and play with that, because for the most part, when you are giving speeches, you are not going to have the opportunity to assess the audience directly. And that's why your textbook starts off by saying that sometimes you can judge just based on visual characteristics of people. It later goes on to push back against that, which I'm glad it does, because sometimes you can make assumptions that are not accurate and nobody wants people making assumptions about them. So don't do it to other people. But for the most part, you can kind of assess like an age range around, it's not going to be down to the month unless you like work at a carnival, but age range-ish, the number of humans, obviously, around the, again, it won't be like right on the nose, but you can see about how many people are going to be in the audience. Things like attitudes and beliefs. If you are invited specifically to speak to a certain group of people, for example, I was invited to speak about health and empowerment at one of my friends' dance studios for a workshop, a female empowerment workshop that they were doing for a lot of the little girls. And I generally understood things like the passion for dance that they experienced. Obviously, they wouldn't be taking dance classes if they didn't have some kind of interest in dance. Things like I very well knew their instructor, so I could bring in narratives and stories about their instructor. I know that they hold that instructor close to their heart. That's a value that they possess. And I was able to connect with them because I could connect with her. So things like that, if it's a specific situation. If you are just coming in like a TED Talk situation, you don't know who, if you ever get to give a TED Talk, I'm going to be so excited for you, and I expect you to send me the link because that's one of my dreams as well. But there could be anybody in the audience. They could have any number of attitudes, beliefs, and values. They could be from any demographic. So this class is kind of a unique opportunity for you to start actually considering all of the different intersections of people's identities and how that might impact their ability to listen. So things like age, gender, religious preference, ethnicity, education, socioeconomic status, their career ambitions, hobbies, group affiliations, all of that good stuff. So this knowledge of all of these demographics and attitudes of your audience can provide really valuable insights into how they might feel about your topic, or how they can connect with you about your topic, so that your speech can actually be effective and successful. Because otherwise, why give the speech? It's not just because I have to, because it's for a grade, right? You want the speech to do something. Otherwise, it's kind of a waste of your time and my time and the people in the audience's time, which is why you're picking a topic that you're really passionate about. Because when you're passionate about it, your audience can see that and feel that, and that can help bring them into that connection as well. The textbook then, like I said, goes back and kind of pushes back against you can assess just from observation people's characteristics. It talks about how there's a fine line between demographic sensitivity and stereotyping. You don't want to, we talked about in previous chapters, like ethnocentrism and stereotyping. You don't want to assign people to a group that they maybe don't think that they belong to or they don't identify with, because that can be really hurtful, even if it's a positive stereotype like we talked about previously. So being mindful and respectful of the characteristics, but then also supplementing that knowledge as much as possible by either like surveying your audience, which you'll have a little bit of background information because we are going to do an example of a survey, or also talking to the person that is in charge of the event that you're speaking at. Like what is the audience like? What are their attitudes, beliefs, and values? Like what kind of demographics are we looking at? Like how can I tailor my speech to them? And I've said attitudes, beliefs, and values a few times. Remember, beliefs are just what you think or what you know about a subject. So that's usually learned through experience or education. You've got attitudes, which then kind of applies a judgment or an assessment of worth to a belief. So things like I approve of this or disapprove of this. And then values are going to be something that you hold more deeply rooted in yourself and who you are as a person. So things like your morals and ethics, things that inform how you behave, what you believe, right and wrong, that kind of stuff. This chapter also brings up Maslow's hierarchy. So if you can figure out a way to assess your topic for where it falls on the hierarchy of needs of your audience members, that can be a really great way to connect with them as well. So if you're talking about a new effective way to work out or to include exercise in your daily routine, that may be closer to like physical well-being, and what are the subparts of physical well-being, and how can I connect this topic to the subparts of physical well-being to my audience and what they think about that. Your worksheet says the best way to learn about different cultures is to reach out to them. You don't want to tokenize anybody by saying, hey, you are a self-identified member of this community, and so now I expect you to teach me about your community. For the most part, we should all be going out and doing our own learning if we have questions. But it is also really important to highlight voices of different communities and allow them to give them their perspective, give you their perspective. So opening that dialogue and opening the door for communication about something that you are unsure about or unclear about, for the most part, people are really receptive to that. And you get the information, straight from the source, which is the most credible way. It warned you to avoid stereotyping, ethnocentrism, sexism, gender stereotyping, sexist language, racist language, and symbolic racism. All of those things should be avoided. If they pop up in your speech, you will be seriously downgraded. If you are worried that something is coming off as symbolically racist or gender stereotyping, and you're not sure how to word it better or to prevent it from seeming that way because that's not your intention, shoot me an email. I'm happy to go over stuff with you. I also always add spotlighting to this list, which I think would fall under there's sexism or gender stereotyping. Spotlighting being things like, it can be, spotlighting can be racist as well. An example would be like a male nurse or a Black lawyer. There's no reason why we need to add that additional label. What we're saying when we spotlight like that is that typically nurses are not male, so I need to tell you that this was a male nurse so that you don't assume it was a female nurse. Or typically lawyers aren't Black, so I need to tell you that this lawyer was Black. Most of the time stuff like that is not relevant to the story anyway, and you're just kind of perpetuating these stereotypes that these groups of people are not typically in these occupations or these spaces, etc., which just isn't true, right? So spotlighting, also avoid that, not only in your speeches, but also in just like daily conversation as well is a good plan. Okay, so let's go back to, I'm gonna share my screen with you again. There we go. Okay, so I've got your audience demographics and interests survey. So you get to go in and answer your age, the ethnicity you identify with. If you're multiracial, I have a piece on here for you as well, because I all the time have students who are like, I'm exactly 50-50, what do I put? Multiple ethnicities, yay! If you want to type in both multiple ethnicities, throw that in other, totally fine with me. There's no way I would ever be able to put all of the potential combinations as options on there. So I hope you can hear me. My door is open and there is someone in trouble with a fire truck coming. So I hope that's not too loud. Your biological sex. You can be female, male, intersex. All of this is going to be anonymous. So no one's going to know it was you. You've got your gender here as well. If you are confused at the difference between biological sex and gender, shoot me an email. I have many resources as somebody that works in sexual and reproductive health. They are different. It's important to know that. Your income, if it's over $50,000 a year, go you. Seems like a lot of money to me. University doesn't pay me very much though. Your occupation, if it's other, throw whatever it is in there, but we're thinking general categories here. Your religion, your education level. I think most of you are going to be in some college. So even if this is your first college class, that's some college. You don't have to put your highest level of achieved education. First language, same thing here. If I missed some, there are so many languages in the world, throw it in other for me and I can add it to the list for my next class period. So we've got all of those questions, which are our demographic information, and that's all of the information that when you think about how products are marketed to you, they have that target audience. They're going to go through demographics and say, this product is primarily aimed at this ethnicity, this age range, this gender, etc. We also have groups and affiliations. And this is the information that sometimes the organizer of your event that you're speaking at is going to be able to give to you. So things like your political affiliation, biggest issue facing our country today. If there is something that is not already on there, throw it in other for me. And then these tick boxes, you can click all that apply. So you can be interested in sports and crafting and mathematics. And then same list, I am not interested in pop culture or relaxation or food and beverage, whatever, however many it is. So at the end of the day, we're gonna have this list of usually speech topic. This is a pretty thorough list of topic overarching categories. So at the end of the day, you're going to be able to say like, oh, okay, cool. I'm interested in giving a speech on basketball, but my audience said that 80% of them are not interested in sports. So now I need to find another way to connect to my audience by, let's say, using a narrative being a story. So if you can get people interested with a, heartfelt story about you and your experience with basketball, or a player and their journey to overcome adversity to participate and play in basketball, that kind of like human interest side of the sports, then you can get at it from a different way. But just expecting everybody likes my topic is not really going to work, right? So we want to get this information, because we could have an entire class that's like, I mess with mathematics, I love it, let's talk about it. And then maybe you didn't think that they would be interested, but now you know that they are. We also have, I spend most of my time at school, at work, with friends, with family, sleeping, on recreational activities, etc. That tells you what your audience values. Are they, do they value their education? Do they value their family? What's the highest value that they hold? And then that's going to allow you to tweak your topic to include the majority of those people as well. So I'm going to stop sharing. Okay, so I'm hoping that one, you see what I've added to eCourseware. If for some reason something isn't popping up, it's not accessing correctly, the file isn't downloading, whatever else, just shoot me an email and let me know. eCourseware messes up all the time, so I would not be surprised I had to fix something for one of the students Friday or Saturday. So I believe my students before I believe eCourseware. That's where we're at. But also, I hope that you have a better understanding of why it's necessary to assess your audience and how that can benefit you and help you to make your speech even more effective, so that there's a reason why you're giving your speech, so that you're actually achieving your goal, be it to inform your audience or persuade your audience or celebrate something with your audience. That being said, we're going to take it a little further, take it another step, and go in and answer those audience analysis questions so that you can get a little bit more insight and start to play with, how do I alter and evolve my topic to make sure that my audience is listening and interested and engaged, but also it's something that I'm still passionate about. I'm still being true to myself and my passion. So let me know if you have questions on chapter 5. I'm going to pause this and then I will pop back in and record your chapter 12 video. And I think there's one more. Yeah. All right. Thanks, guys.